Hello and welcome to another episode of Matty Allen Live. I'm your host, Matty Allen, with special guest, Big Kurkowski. How's it
Hey
going?
everybody, how are you guys doing? How are you doing today, Maddie?
Very good. This is my third show today. I've been doing some shorter shows and
I was impressed. I heard you with El Hexadente or before Hexologist, and I was like, holy moly! I was like, he's before and after Hexo. He's a busy man.
well, we've got some great topics that you and I can talk about now, which include airdrops as well as Puerto Rico. You may be able to speak on.
Yes,
And of course, you are famous for being the crypto miner turned
yes,
hex staker. And so instead of getting paid to burn electricity and have all the hassles of your hearing being blown out by loud computers that are wrecking the earth, instead now you get paid probably more to simply hold and stake hex and leave it alone, right?
yes. It's the truth. It's a much better, easier life that I lead now than previous. I used to do quite a bit of mining. We had facility that we were probably had three 200 amp panels running, so like 600 amps of power when we were maxed out. So it wasn't like a giant facility or anything, but it was big enough to where it was, the louder the fans, the better, so I would have to wear hearing protection in there for sure, because it was super screaming loud. And like changing anything, working on any of the equipment, any of that stuff is just like, if working on
Stress,
computer,
huh?
yeah, it's stressful. And if working on computer equipment wasn't already hard and stressful enough, now you're doing it in like, extra hot temperatures and extra
Mm.
hot settings. You'd have to we'd pull it. We had a separate room, but you still had to do a lot of work in there. It's no fun.
Yeah, my computer wants to melt sometimes just from streaming to three or four different platforms, let alone competing with all the other computers in the world to mine a cryptocurrency. So, um, I'm excited for our discussion tonight, and we'll do a quick intro clip before we get started.
Awesome.
Awesome. So,
Awesome.
of all the topics we've got to pick from, what do you think is most important to start with?
Well, I think that something that's super interesting and like pertinent right now is definitely the airdrop mania that we've got going on. And it's
Ah,
no
yes.
that's, I think, something that like everybody cares about a lot right now.
Mhm.
On top of like really coupled with like the layer two stuff that's happening is, it's happening fast. Like there's a like
Yes.
2 weeks ago we were all like, woe is me, gas fees. And then like now there's actual solutions that are already here now. Some of
Mm.
them were already here. We just didn't like, there wasn't a focus on them, they're necessary. And I think that anything that is like you and Hexadene were talking about, a lot of it is like legitimate. It's not just FUD in the sense of articles. It's like FUD on your bottom line. It's FUD that hurts you to hit a button.
Mm.
You have to think long and hard about hitting a button, and like that makes people very, I don't know, cautious, and it makes the system feel caustic in general. It's just like you
Yes.
don't, you're like you just are sapping money away, very quickly if you don't know what you're doing, or are acting flippantly. So yeah, I think that's something that like is important to talk about, because I think that with layer two is going to come a whole other host of airdrops. Because like you have to choose a layer two solution. Everybody's got to choose, because like it's similar to, you know, like any other picking a block. It's like now you got to pick a blockchain within a blockchain, because
Yeah.
because like you can't, there's a lot of different ways to get to what you're trying to get to, which is low fees.
That's a great
and
point.
and like there's, you have to choose one. There's the quick swap that we've heard about recently that I've taken a little look at. There's the ZK swap. Now quick swap actually has hex on it, so we're very, very, I mean, like already fond of that in some regards. But that runs on Matic, which is something that is like a second layer solution. But then, like, I mean, then again, we're using Ethereum and Matic to get to hex, which really at the end of the game doesn't really help you as like a staker. If you're a long-term staker, these solutions kind of like peripherally help you, because like I wouldn't go chasing airdrops unless you're a trader necessarily, because one, like I said, you have to pick one, and there's a whole bunch of different ones out there. So like which one's going to be the valued one, which one's not, is interesting. But also you have to, like, if you're staking long-term, 10 plus years or 5 years or whatever, even a year plus, it's like one transaction at the beginning and one transaction at the end. You can't get away from that. That has to be on mainnet. And
one of the ways that I'm looking at it is, I am chasing airdrops and I am not a trader. But I recognize that chasing airdrops, it's one game that I'm playing, and there are many other games that I'm playing at the same time. And so this is a very small side game in the big picture. My big picture.
What I think I mean about that is that, like, I wouldn't you're right. Biggest picture, staking hex. But I think that, like, I mean, what I mean by that is that, like, you could easily, I mean, I'll tell you straight up that, like, I've done the airdrop chase recently. I mean, like, and I'm not opposed to it. Like, I mean, you can do the MetaMask chase, that, like, I can feel, some positive vibes behind that. But I mean, you just go look up the article. There's like 10 possible latest airdrops that are coming out, and if you want to go and use some of those systems for swaps and whatever, you can. I mean, I set up like 10 different wallets and moved 2 Ethereum into one, and then just proceeded to burn through a whole Ethereum, moving, doing transactions on all these different networks, which is, I mean, it's fine. But I mean, I just burned through an Ethereum, so like, yes. maybe that, maybe that pays out or not, but like I'm praying that some of these airdrops make that work, but that's, I mean, sure. That's like, if you're already in a speculative game, that is a speculation on top of speculation. It's just like, I mean, it's a layer 2 speculation that we got going on here, And
what do you want to spend your money on? Do you want to buy new tennis shoes? Do you want to buy more hex? Do you want to spend it all on gas to chase an airdrop? Like, some of those things, it's going to come down to the individual person. Yeah. One person might value those tennis shoes much more greatly than, the future wealth or participating in something that may or may not work out. I'm still, I still am on a journey of understanding my emotions and my goals when it comes to investing, right? And thinking more in the long term.
That's a great way of saying it, because, like, I have a wallet on my MetaMask here, like that I call it my shitcoin trader wallet. And it's literally just like I put, I did it with the intention of acting as I previously have, because I feel like I'm just, when I let my emotions take the best of me, I get, you're just a guppy in the sea of, being washed left and right from, Twitter or whoever you get your influence from, saying buy this ticker and that ticker and everything else under the sun. And so, like, I mean, I'm a terrible trader for the most part, but if I'm playing around and that shitcoin trader wallet has increased in value, just messing around with garbage coins that, just for the sake of it, that tells me some things. Tells me that I'm in a bull run, first of all, because very, like, I'm not doing anything special besides chasing what other people. You're like, oh, I saw that one, buy a couple, sure. Oh, it went up, holy crap, and like, I mean, there's nothing scientific about it, but it also makes me kind of think about, like, what, like, I'm feeling when I mess around with that wallet is how most people are feeling in the cryptocurrency game in general. Like, kind of frantic, trying to chase after the shiniest thing that is out there. I mean, it's, and I can understand that mentality, or at least I understand it a little bit better when I'm, like, acting on it, just for, like, going to just check out, act a fool with this wallet for a minute. And I could, like I said, it tells me that we're in a bull run for sure. That is some garbage that should not do well has done very well. It also tells me, kind of like I said, sometimes it'll tell me the sway, like I feel the sentiment of things. There, you knew when the bubble popped in the summertime that it was going to be a little bit before there was any sort of momentum back upwards. And I could feel that, even though I was like Hex was all, was like my main focus, but I was messing around with a little of these goofy DeFi projects, early in August. And like when that run up happened, you're like, this seems unsustainable. And it was, things came back down to earth for a little bit.
Okay. Yeah. I stayed out of that one.
Mm-hmm.
Like that summer phase.
Yeah, and that was, when it came back down, it also told me that like when that wallet didn't erode to zero with some of these, like, man, I bought I could anyone tell you like some of these garbage coins. Chad coin, it's hilarious. Go check out Chad. Their website is just about the hilarious thing in the world. I was like, this is a definite garbage coin scam. But like it went up, just like everything else, and and when it went down, it didn't like get destroyed. A bunch of these coins didn't get destroyed. They're like, and what told me was that like that was the test pump. That like you see it all the time on charts.
Ask yourself. Did they leave meat on the bone, or did they leave bait on the hook?
That's good, man. It's definitely bait on the hook, because that's, it's meat on the bone too, because like, I've taken some profits, on some of that shit coin. I was like, I try and keep the same amount that's in there, but like I pulled a little off the top of that because I was like, damn, this is crazy, so like that means that somebody's made money on this shit. So definitely like if me knowing not very little and trading and basically shooting blindly with crypto Twitter calls, that makes money, then like other people have made a lot of money. That is for sure. Now
as these cycles evolve, they'll have more and more. The scams even will have more and more technology to deploy. AI
scams act like a blockchain.
To design the perfect scam coin, to design the perfect imitation Maddie Allin voice to call you up and tell you I need help, wire me money.
Oh yeah, dude. All that stuff is like, man, the deep fake reality that will, is all there. Whatever technology or whatever the authorities or the are using, like they're like the people that are trying to circumvent that to get to scam people are trying harder. They're always trying just a little bit harder because they're hungrier for the money. It's just by the nature of it, and and people are dumb. People are really easily scammed, and in this situation, there's like it's very easy to use appeals to complexity to get people to
True.
Get scammed in this situation. How many people are looking over any of these smart contracts that they're going that they're buying into on Uniswap or
like Hex at least.
Yes.
The one that I care about.
Yeah, I've looked at exactly. And like I've looked at the code at Hex. I'm not a coder, so I'm like, oh, I could see exactly what's going on here. But it's concise, and well written. Whereas like, and there's more to it. There's actually some meat to it. Some of these projects, they're literally a couple, maybe a couple hundred lines of code of very basic stuff. That's like, this is just a token. It's not.
Yeah.
Whatever magic they're spinning up on their website is for show.
Yeah. It's a copy and paste, or it's unaudited, or both. I like line 718 in the hex code, which is the line that codes for the Quattro Cinco maximum stake 5555, because that leaves meat on the bone. Mm-hmm. If you could do a 30-year stake, it would leave less meat on the bone for people who are coming in and at this phase in the product.
Yeah, and it's funny how that works too, because it's actually like this tapered meat on the bone thing. Because like 15 years still does seem like a long time, but like the other thing that's interesting about that is that like well, it is 15 years, like at 10 years is when the bonuses max out. So like you got to really be dedicated and devoted to the system to like
When the
do
longer
15
pays
years.
better bonus maxes out, but not the penalties that people are paying for the price
Yes.
going up and then emergency and staking. And
Yeah, it's 2.5 years extra commitment for your principal guaranteed, and then from there, it's an extra five on the tail end for like just for what, I mean, we love it and we talk about it and we use it, but like T shares are they're still at, and like the value of them and the like is still at this point, and forever will be to some degree an abstraction, and like we, there's real value in it, but like, because of the cost to buy one. But it's, I mean, why that is means so much is only clear to us. It's really only clear to us. So like, and the more people that get to understand it, sure, it'll become more clear to other people. But like it's really unique to see people create that reality as much as they have, because like, okay, you really max, like I said, you max your bonuses out at 10 years. So like to get that, to like the shares being that valuable and wanting them that for that long, really it's a level of commitment that is just it's unparalleled, really. Like, I mean, you're still going to get interest. Sure,
you
but
max out how big your miner is. But the fact that that miner is going to be mining for you at that big rate for an extra 5 years is something that not everybody understands about the value of a 15-year stake.
Oh yeah, for sure. And a lot of people don't understand it because, I mean, like, man, the market cycle in Bitcoin has been like, even if you're not talking the bull and the bear, like if you go into the technicality on the mining side of things, man, before you put out the like the like okay, S9 was a big miner for a long time. It was like the pinnacle, like the peak, the S9 ran, as Bitmain's miner that was like the top notch one for its life cycle was longer than most other miners' life cycle has ever been. And like, how long was that life cycle? Like where it was actually useful? I mean, like maybe 2 years max. Maybe
Define
three,
useful.
two. Like,
Those
I
are the
mean,
ones
like,
that I imported and resold on eBay
yeah, yeah. I
during the
mean,
bubble. And like what you could actually buy them for is like, that was such a huge bubble. I mean, it was
oh, it's a
insane.
crazy
Like,
bubble. I mean, like, and again, you can see that bubble again because like miners, that those same miners that now, like, there's already the S like 17 out. There was like the 11 and the 15, and it's that I mean, we've gone through several life cycles since then. That's why I mean, like the 9 was like the longest running of all of them.
yeah,
Most
totally.
of them were like even way less than a year and a half of like actual runtime where like they were the top of the line. They don't have very long lifespan in ASIC land, and like, so now you're talking about like people don't trust shit in Bitcoin for very long, and why not? The equipment itself, it turns over faster than I mean, I have computers that like you used to like there's like a that Weird Al Yankovic song. It's all about the Pentiums, where he's like making fun of the fact of how fast computers like outdate themselves. Like you've had your computer for a week, man, that thing's outdated, like, and like that was like a kind of a joke of early computing times. Like, man, you can't buy 5 years later, you got to get a new one. And like, this is to an extreme degree, it's 5 times faster than that. It's like your stuff's outdated. A year after you have it, you're already like within a year, you're like, I need new shit. All of this needs to be replaced. And it creates a frantic nature of things to where like nobody is looking. I mean, it's impressive to see people looking that far into the future. I mean, everyone wants to act like they've got these diamond hands and that they're not going to sell, but like the charts show when there's 80% drawdowns that like a lot of people are fucking selling, so it doesn't really correlate. I mean people move
or the people who are selling are willing to sell for less.
It's true because they're afraid at that point in time.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's interesting. And I had the thought, I'm not sure how real this is, but I was always wondering, like, for the last 10 years, um, why is it that computers stopped getting better? Because, personal computers, they kept getting better year after year after year, and then it kind of just stopped about 5 or 10 years ago. And then it just popped into my mind the other day, an aha moment. I was like, oh, of course, Bitcoin took all the computing power away from us. That's
I mean,
why.
that's funny, you say that because like, I mean, but what the thing was is that you get into these like, it's really hard to, what are you gaining? It was like you gained so much going from computer chips that were this big to computer chips that were this big. But like now you're talking about going from like 11 nanometer production lines and 13 nanometer production lines to like 5 and 7. I mean, like,
Yeah.
and like it's, I can't remember the phenomenon that it discusses
Moore's
this.
law.
It's like not, it's not Moore's law that I'm talking about. I know what you mean with Moore's law there, but like, what I'm talking about is that there's like a phenomenon where like as things get harder and more technical, it takes more economic input to get less benefit. Like it took very little economic input and like mental prowess. I mean, it was still like revolutionary, but like creating the penicillin vaccine compared to creating the vaccines for corona that are as considerably more complex and deals with mRNA and like a whole new line of types of vaccines that are out there. Like the research and the money that's had to go into getting this little bit of a better vaccine, product out, it's a lot more than what went into the very early, thing, like, just creating the first one of it. People were blown away by sliced bread, and when sliced bread came out and all that took was a knife, and then now to get like, thin cut, gluten-free, fancy ass, just slightly better bread takes a whole separate production line and everything else to like squeeze out that last 10 or 15% of goodness, I mean, it's like, I feel like that's kind of what's going on here in this situation too. I mean, it was early on, it was with computing, it was easy to when, I mean, you'd see blazing in speed increases because the efficiencies were there. But like once you get down to this micro level, like I said, going from 7 to 5 nanometers, you or me aren't going to notice the computing difference whatsoever. But the billions of dollars of economic research that had to go into figuring out how to fit those transistors onto that small of an area was way more than the process before that and the process before that. So that's kind of like we reached this crescendo kind of.
So my belief system doesn't allow me to accept the notion that that it is as hard as it appears today, because basically for the idea that whenever governments print money ad infinitum and whenever power centralizes so much as we see in today's day and age and what's been happening over the past several decades, like it's true that the innovation declines, right? And so it's I think it's definitely what you're saying, and it's also that macroeconomic trend.
Yeah, and I agree with you 100%. Yeah. And how I see that, when I can like relate that one to the steel working of the world. We were not like America's Bessemer system that we won World War II with was great for us and won, and it was awesome. And so we paid a lot of money and like offered a lot of money to Japan to rebuild their stuff along the way. And Japan did rebuild, and the types of like steel working processes that they spent a lot of research money to create gave them a whole new breed of cars that were these high impact, light steel worked cars that like was a whole advancement ahead. And like they advanced and like that's the thing, is that like we had never needed to, and so we didn't. Why? Like there was no necessity. So like like Ford was still using basically the same steel processes that they were using. I mean, it's for the most part the same. But if you have the necessity to make the change, and that's what would need to be here. Like you're totally right that like if computing was something else or on a different medium, or like there was some sort of quantum computing or something else, there is a step up to be made. Whether it be into virtual, some sort of other style of
Well,
computing or whatever. But yeah, you're right.
it's like when you are making advances in technology, like it's hard to actually remember that the rate of like making leaps forward used to be bigger whenever hard money was used. But when governments, when they create businesses that are really just like, they're in bed with the politicians. And so there isn't real competition going on. And then whenever a company does get really successful, they get diminishing returns because they really can't fail. And that creative destruction and like,
that's true. That is
allowing
true.
failing to happen really is part of what drives innovation as well, I think, right?
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I think that it's again, because necessity is what creates that innovation. And like if you don't have a fear of failure, then what is your incentive to succeed? I mean, it's just not there. You have to have incentive to succeed. And if there's like or to even maintain, if you just like know you're going to do all right forever because the government's got your back, then like don't expect anything flashy out of them ever. It's just not going to happen. Like period.
And you're going to lose because they're going to devalue the dollar, right? And so you're going to lose if you don't hurry as fast as you can to build cheap things and get the minimum. Why is it called the minimum viable product? Why isn't it, the best, why isn't it something better than the minimum? Well, it's not because it's truly competitive, although it seems like that's one of the factors. But the other factor is if you don't invest all your money in the stock market, right, then it's going to depreciate. They're printing 40% more dollars this past year.
Yeah, and it's even deeper than that, man. It's like that you find out that the when you run the numbers, it's actually cheaper and more effective to, instead of making your product more safe, to hire a lobbyist to lobby politicians to get the safety regulations changed. You're like, what? It's like that's actually more cost effective for our company to do. And therein lies a huge problem that like it's when you find that, we were talking about this on Gary's stream the other night. George Gannon's video was talking about it, that like when you find this subversion of what like what you're there for. Like the business is there to make fucking widgets, the business isn't there to speculate on its own, stock or to like suckle up to the government to like, to their teat to get whatever. They're supposed to do the thing right, based in the legality framework of what's around them, and not, they're like, their job isn't to change the legal framework around them. That's just very antithetical to like the whole reason to start the business in the first place, and to progress in general, and to just progress, it's progress in like a circular, it doesn't help, what is that good?
So I mean, there's a lot going on that is innovative. Well, there's a lot of innovative scams in crypto right now, but they're also kind of just replays from before. But new audience to harvest all their hard worked for money. But Hex is something different, and it's kind of interesting, even just from its name, because you would think of Hex as something that is a curse or as something that just sounds weird. But in fact, Hex is more of a cure than a curse. And that's because it pays interest in a way that is generated from people time locking their coins and getting rewarded more for locking longer. And that's something in economics that hasn't existed before as a pure mathematical approach to sending value, to saving value, and making sure that your value is going, well, at least your numbers are going to exist into the future in a way that isn't being tampered with by politicians that have perverse incentives, or by other centralized entities. So I think it's good stuff. And now I know that you're such an expert on Hex and all things crypto that we could go a lot of different directions with this talk. But whenever I whenever I put a title, I try to at least live up to that to some extent. And so I know we've got an audience here, and they're wanting to know more about airdrops, which is a recurring topic that I've been going over because I think although it's a risk, it's also got some reward that goes along with it. And people heard me say earlier today that I've now safely played around with these MetaMask, the MetaMask contract, so the MetaMask swap, Paraswap, Zerion, ZK swap, Matcha, but I don't think I did that one right. Ethereum naming system and OpenSea. Those are the ones that I've done, and I'm going to be looking through the list that Brennan shared, and I can go ahead and put that on the screen here for people to take a screenshot of. And I would encourage you all to go back and look at the show notes from all of the shows that I have that say airdrop on them. I update them after the show with top comments from people who were commenting and they had something really wise to share about like, what are the risks of airdrops, right? And so make sure you do your homework before you go, you go around risking your crypto, because that's kind of what it is here. And I see we have Motley Investor in the chat here, and he's
another airdrop wizard there. That's for sure.
Yes.
That's for sure.
I like to say that Motley and I are competing to see who can make the most off airdrops, and he is kicking my butt.
Yeah, there's another Z one that I've tried too. I can't think of
Zapper.
Zapper, there it is. That's the other one too. Zapper. You got that one on there. Instadap.
So I have not tried all these. I don't necessarily endorse all of these. This was the list that was given by Brennan, who's a trusted community member.
There's Set too, which is another one that that may or may not release a token, or may or may not have an error. It's all like who knows, maybe. But yeah, these are all pretty good ones. I mean, it's tough because, like, again, we were talking about it the other day that like a lot of what makes an airdrop, or like where the value of it all comes from is that there is some form of like surprise to it, that it's not, because like if they said, hey, yes, on X day everybody's going to get Y coins if you do Z thing, then everybody's going to do Z thing. I mean, like, for a perfect example of that is the Hex giveaway from Monarch Wallet. Monarch Wallet did a Hex $50,000 Hex giveaway. What was that, back in like July? And
I stayed away from that.
You could go on download Monarch Wallet and click a button and get, and like, so like you could download Monarch Wallet on every device that you have and your friends and everybody else's, and you just click one button and you'd get the airdrop. But of course, like, because of that, 250,000 plus wallets showed up, and like when 250,000 wallets show up, then everybody gets, what did they get? 42 Hex or something like that, or 30 something. It wasn't very much. It was very, very few. I mean, and like as expected, it was telegraphed. Hey, download this wallet, click this button, you'll get some free Hex. And they're like, we got a month to do it. So because of that, I mean, it wasn't worth that much because everybody did it. Everybody everybody did it 10 times probably.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's why you can't telegraph the stuff too much. And even when you haven't telegraphed it, MetaMask has said like straight up, last time they were asked like a month and a half ago, there was an article that said that they're not planning on it in the near future. But like,
the rumor is 1inch dev team lied. And so, yeah, like somebody in the community of Hex who watches the streams commented that they literally went into the Discord for 1inch, shortly before the 1inch airdrop, and point blank asked the devs whether they were doing one, and they lied and said that they weren't.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I think.
Because of the surprise factor that you're talking about. Otherwise,
you can't.
It makes more work for them to try to pick through and figure out who's gaming the system to dump on them. and who's not, right?
Yep. 100%. 100%.
We got a question here that's a good one. What's the intent of these airdrops? What ideally do Uniswap and MetaMask want people to do with them in a perfect world? Well, to enrich the founders, to be able to register, to be able to have an offering of getting a piece of their business without having to register with the Securities and Exchange Commission. It's in some cases it's legal to do an airdrop. Maybe the U.S. government, they're okay with it because you guessed it, you owe a bunch of taxes on your airdrops based on the moment that you had access to the funds and what the fair market value was, not based on whenever you sold it. And so it really comes down to what the conditions are of the airdrop. If you have to do some action, then it gets kind of gray to the point where, like, it's been explained to me once on a video and I still don't understand, but I can link that below. The CPA, crypto CPA, I saw speaking on that earlier today.
Yeah, that's I got an airdrop for some coin that's like I got it before all this gas fee madness, but it's like an advertisement. It's like 8 million coins or whatever. It's like, come to www.whatever, go fuck yourself.com. Like, what is this? Like, this is ridiculous. And I mean, like the idea that you would have to go and like chase down some sort of fair market value for something like that is just aggravating.
And that's how these two topics relate to you, because that's one area of airdrops that I've not covered yet is the tax implications. And also I have not spoken before on Puerto Rico, which is a place you moved. And that may be one of the things that you will come to enjoy about moving to Puerto Rico is the fact that you have different tax obligations there than you would living in the United States.
Yes, the tax obligations are very, very different. I mean, and you have to apply for the tax benefits. You don't just get them necessarily for moving here, but
that's right.
But it's definitely worthwhile for anyone that's out there that's listening to this and hasn't heard about it before. For everyone who's listened to Hex stuff from us before, for myself, I'm sure you've heard me speak about it. But yeah, it's they offer fantastic benefits, and I mean it's a great place. I love Puerto Rico a lot. It's like it's a lot of fun, a beautiful environment. I mean, and then yes, you like the not having to worry about capital gains taxes is a huge, huge benefit of being here for sure. There's a lot.
I've been known to say that there are two types of people in the world: those who already understand how powerful Hex is, and those who will in the future understand what Hex is. But I want to add another category of people, but it might just be the first category: people who understand the power of Hex and move to Puerto Rico. Yeah. And then second category, people who don't understand Hex but will come to in the future. So I've said it before and I'll say it again. I think everybody in Hex, we're all going to be neighbors in Puerto Rico. And I was shocked when I first said that and RG3 said he would never be my neighbor. And then he flip-flopped just the other day, and now he says he will. So
he's
caught
too
him.
Funny, man. Yeah. And then I was like, and when I heard that, I was like, wait a minute, you're the first one that said you were moving to Puerto Rico with us. What's going on here? Oh man. Yeah, it's a fun, like I said, I'm excited for having everybody that is interested in coming down here, come on through and check it out. They have plenty of bean burritos in Puerto Rico. The Cubans don't eat bean burritos. I mean, yes, they have burritos here. You can get they have all sorts of Cuban food is actually pretty popular here. And Puerto Rico and Mexico is Mexican, so you'll find those plenty. But everything has this no matter I wouldn't say everywhere, but most everywhere has a Puerto Rican like a little bit of a flair to it. Like you go to a sushi place, because I've never been to a sushi place anywhere else in the world that does plantains like amarillos in sushi rolls, you know, and it's really good. It's really good. But like, I mean, it's definitely super Puerto Rican. So yeah, it's a great spot though, and taxes are fantastic here. And I would love to have other Mexicans come on down and check it out and fall in love as well.
It's part of my plan. So maybe I can tell you my tax strategy, because I am so far, for all the years I've been in crypto, I have paid my taxes on my crypto. I, went to the great extent of learning how to do tax loss harvesting in the past. That's not applicable in this market today, but it has allowed me, I think, well, I haven't done my taxes. I've still got another month or so to do them here for 2020, but I think I'll be able to, luckily, I didn't sell too much in 2020, but the crypto that I did should balance out with the tax losses that I've harvested, I hope. More on that later once I figure it out. But I do use a tax tracking software.
Smart. Yeah,
basically.
I mean, I've always used it. I mean, I've been doing mining for a while, so like you have to be very careful with your, rewards and everything else. It's like, constant, it's just gaining a lot. It's just like in creating any other commodity, so there's gonna be lots of taxable implications every single day, basically. So
the way that I understand it, oh, go ahead.
So I mean, you can
so basically, as it stands, if you have long stakes that are out there, let's say 10 to 15 years, as it's been explained to me, basically there's a window that I would have between when the USD price of Hex moons and when I would be able to even cash that out without losing most of my principal, where I could move to Puerto Rico, do the paperwork, with the lawyers there. Then I could basically transfer my shares that at the rate, at like the cost basis of them basically being nuked, let's say, or like only getting 10% of my, or 30% of my principal back. I could transfer those to a company that I would have set up in Puerto Rico. And then, and then I would be paying like my exit tax to the United States based on that much lower figure compared to waiting until I could, hit that big red end stake button. And, then I would be getting way more, or I would be getting, if it was an emergency and if I let those stakes mature, then I would be paying some insanely high probably tax rate in the future, because taxes are probably just going to go up. And so I'd have a window there. And so that makes it so, like at this phase for me, if I want to have my money in crypto and then not have to spend all the money on moving and lawyers and all that kind of stuff at this phase, then I can wait until Hex matures a little bit more. But that's the beautiful thing about Hex that I wouldn't be able to do with Bitcoin. I wouldn't be able to sell and buy back my Bitcoin and have this basically delay in what the fair market value is at that time, because the T shares are not Hex, because their fair market value is determined by how long they are and how. And so, do you see what I'm like?
Oh no, I 100% agree. 100% agree with you, and I think that works out exactly as stated. I mean, most of the value you get from your Hex stakes comes in the last, like the very end of them, anyways. So like that's you can. I would love to see a chart out of that, of like some stakes depending on time when they started and when they ended, and when the payouts were given to you, like what their value was at certain points in time based on that, because that would help out a lot. And there's also some other things about Puerto Rico or becoming
Maybe that's one of the
a
things that
resident
we can do on the Quant Gang is once we get some of these other charts that we've asked for, then we could do. So that would be a chart of like current fair market value.
Yes, of like what like a stake would be worth based on current, like a chart of its fair market value over time, based on if you unstaked it right at that point in time, because that's really what you have to unstake and then sell for if you're actually claiming its value.
Thank you.
Yeah, that would be really cool. And yeah, so there's a few other cool things about becoming a Puerto Rican resident that and the way that the tax things have, from what I understand, no financial advice, that it works out. But is like, first of all, because I became a resident in July, but because it backdates to the beginning of the year. So like anything that I had purchased as a personally, up to in January of last year, then like that is all still covered under my residency, so like it would be as if I purchased it as a Puerto Rican, even though I was still in the U.S. at that time. Now it doesn't work the same for a business. If you're moving assets into a business, then it has to be at that fair market time, so it's kind of like you get this like window, this little several month window of extra time if you're moving assets personally.
And it's when your application is approved, and not like when you land your feet in Puerto Rico, or not when you actually buy.
It's when you land your feet. Like I decided, it's when your application is sent in. Okay. So like my application was sent in July, and like to be honest, I still haven't the tax office is super backed up. So like my lawyer is, they've checked on it and they're like, no, it should come before the end of this quarter. But I mean, it was put in almost 2 quarters ago, and there's still just a pile of stuff to get through there. So cool. I don't have my decree technically yet, but they're like, to just file as if you have it, and operate as if you have it. So like because of that, like that whole first year is would be considered as if you're a Puerto Rican resident. So that's something to consider. The other things to consider is like the costs of doing the decree and the costs of like ongoing costs. There's like a few requirements that you have to live by. It's like about a $5,000 cost up front, and then annually it's $10,000 that has to be donated to a charity of, or usually it's like 2 charities and 2 $5,000 don't. You can do it that way too, of your choice. There's a big list of them. There are Puerto Rican charities that the nonprofits to donate to. But those things don't have to, like, you don't pay the $5,000 fee until, like, I haven't paid it yet. I pay it once my decree is accepted, and you don't pay the charity donations until the end of the second year that you're there. By the end of the second year that you're there, so like there is costs to it, but they're not particularly as upfront as you might think. You also have to buy property within the first 2 years of living here too, so that's something else to consider. But but it's still a great deal, and still fantastic, plan in general that the government has worked out with Puerto Rico. I think it's mutually beneficial. There is a lot of businesses that are taking advantage of it and bringing quite a bit of employment down here too, call centers, things like that.
And this deal, as it currently stands legally, ends in 2036.
I believe that that's like a 15-year plan, and then there's supposed to be a possibility for an like a 15-year extension at when that time comes. In the last, I don't know if it was the last 3 years or something like that, you can start to apply for your extension.
I'm gonna keep that in mind when I'm doing my 15.2 year stakes.
Yes, exactly. So it's almost perfect that they have a 15-year extension. There's other benefits as well. There's like tax benefits if you want to, open a business and cater to tourists. There's there's property tax and business tax benefits as well. Mexican food truck. There you go. Yeah, I like it, Liberty. Awesome. Yeah, that's a big business down here, or like big like uh, economy is the food truck game. Is like, I mean, everywhere has, and like a couple of the spots around in Dorado here that have food trucks at them, they're like rotating, so there'll be like different food trucks in different days of the week that'll be out there. All sorts of stuff. You can get pizza, sushi, all sorts of stuff by the food trucks. It's crazy. Um,
How expensive was it for all the lawyer stuff and all that?
I think for me to set up my company and for me to like it was the Act 20 and 22 or now it's Act 60 chapter 2 and 3. So to do both of those with the attorney the CPA attorney that I used was I think $5,000 for everything up, to do. I think it was right around that. Maybe it was give or take a little bit, but yeah, right around that. So that I paid up front. The rest of it you pay as when once you've been accepted. So and some of it, like, if you're really brave and your Spanish very well, then like from what I've read, the personal side of things, Act 20 personal side of things, people have filled out the paperwork and done it all themselves. Like if you're good with accounting and know how to fill out government paperwork and tax forms and stuff, then like it is possible for you to do like I think it brings the that initial cost from like $5,000 down to like $1,500 or something like that, because you do have to pay some government fees to like start the application. But yeah, so that's I mean it can be done cheaper, but I mean I was much happier to use the services of somebody who is like, I do this for a living. I was like, perfect, because
Yeah. Oh, totally.
don't really
And
speak Spanish that well, so I'm working on it.
and you've canceled your gym memberships back where you used to live, and
Yes, so that's
you've
I've
closed
even
your bank account.
filled out the paperwork and sent it into the Board of Elections to say I'm no longer going to be voting in any local or federal elections at that place. Yep, I did all that stuff. I sold my car that I had up there. Sold our camper that we had up there. Yeah, yeah.
Did your lawyer give you like a checklist of stuff, or did
No,
you
not really.
have to
I mean, like,
figure it all out?
and even a lot of that stuff is like, what's the word for it? It's
Excessive.
excessive. I mean, like there's a lot of like some people don't do that stuff and have reasons not to and can prove why they still are, by the closer connection tests, they still pass it and all that kind of stuff. And it's fine, but like for me personally, I don't, even though like whether I own my car or not, like, do I need to like have a vehicle sitting there just for no reason for, you're like, oh, I'm going to come back to the States, in 6 months or so and visit. Okay, cool. Well, I can rent a car or something. Like I don't really need, I mean, it just seems a little silly to have that kind of stuff just sitting around collecting dust. And I mean, it's as what it was Gary say, unused capital, undisposed, like it's just undisposed capital. Like I could use it, I could deploy it undeployed capital, somewhere else, and it's just sitting there. Like I mean, I had a nice camper that we used for a couple of years when I was doing music festivals all the time. It made tons of sense. I was like, this is a totally necessary thing to have, but like I have, like, first of all, I haven't done a music festival in over a year, like that hasn't been a thing, so it's just collected dust hanging out. I mean, I was renting it out for a little while, but I mean now I'm not going to be there, so like it's just not going to deal with that.
Yeah, and so you closed your gym membership, and then you set up a membership with the funding gym there in Puerto Rico, probably.
that's right.
Our friend
that's right.
Gary, and you did not leave your wife and kids behind, saying you were just going out for a pack of smokes, and then pretending to live in Puerto Rico. You actually moved the whole family. How did that go?
Great, great. It's super nice to have everybody down here. I think that like for us in our own space, it was great. My wife, where we were at in Florida, my wife is from that area. So like, not being in that area for her entire life is probably one of her life goals. So, that's, so, I mean, it's Tampa area is great. Don't get me wrong. I really enjoyed living there. I'm from Chicago originally. I mean, but I was in Florida for like 15 years or so. And I really enjoyed Florida. It's way warmer and nicer than Chicago. I mean, sure, it's crazier, but like, in some ways, but in other ways, it's pretty tame too. So like, I'm cool with the Florida memes. All that stuff's fun. But at the same time, like for my, like I've I don't know, full disclosure about myself. Like I have psoriasis and um, being in the warmer climates around salt water is super helpful for me. I mean, I feel a lot younger, a lot better. I mean, like I don't flare up nearly as bad ever if I mean, like just in general, I feel like a much happier, person, in general when like if Florida was great, it was a much better place to be than Chicago for me. But Puerto Rico is like even nicer. Like I just, my joints, skin, everything feels considerably better here than anywhere I've been. So like I mean, like there's multiple layers to the onion of why I'm super happy to be here. And besides just tax breaks, but yeah, and like and same thing with my family too. Like I think it was a great like change of pace for us to be, like I said, being where I basically moved from after Chicago, we moved to Newport Richey, and then had been there for that whole for right outside of Tampa for that whole time basically, and that's cool. But doing something else outside of a small town is cool too. So it's not everybody. I remember like that George Gannon video when he's like, "Will you uproot your family and your lives and everything?" I was like, "Actually, yes, I would."
You were raising your hand. Like,
yeah.
Okay, Freddie Quotes is sending us listings.
Oh yeah, he says he's not going if he can't take his guns. So that's actually something.
Biffin said that, right?
Yeah, Freddie Quotes is saying it too.
Okay.
But I see him saying that too. So yeah, you can bring that. It's so recently. So Puerto Rico has had you can have guns down here, but recently, as of like January 1st of last year, 2020. The governor passed a new law where she really wanted to, because before you had to have a gun, you had to be registered and have like a kind of similar to Illinois where you had to have like a gun ownership card. Whereas now to even pick up a gun, you had to have the ownership card. You couldn't even like hold a gun, go to a range with a friend. None of that in Puerto Rico before. Now, as of this bill that came out, not only can other people go to ranges that don't have licenses and shoot, but like other guns can be purchased that weren't able to be purchased before. But also you can get it if you get the license, it also comes with concealed carry as well. Like now concealed carry is a thing that's readily available. Before you had to like know somebody in the government or something to get like your hands on the permit to be able to have concealed carry. But now it's like they wanted to open it up. They're specifically were like, no, we need more gun right access, and so that was what the bill was all about. Which opens up things for a lot of other, industries and stuff in Puerto Rico that I think could benefit from it. Because I mean, there is I enjoy like sport bird hunting, like dove and quail and duck and like that. Those things, like there's a dove season in Puerto Rico that is kind of outside the typical dove season in the U.S. It's like 2 months outside of it, because of the way the migration patterns work. But like, again, you had to be a gun card owner and have a gun yourself to even participate in it. So like you couldn't do any kind of like group shoots or anything like that. You couldn't have any kind of tourist-based shooting or any ranges like that whatsoever. It just didn't exist before. So like as of recently, a lot of that's opened up. And I'm excited to see what kind of comes from it. If there's, now that, I mean, nothing yet because Corona like slowed down all growth of business and that, especially in that kind of stuff. But like, I'd love to see more stuff like that happening, and more outdoor sporting kind of stuff being an opportunity down here. So possible. That's if some Mexicans are into it, come on down, set up a shooting range, set up
the chat's going wild. Of course, if you're Puerto Rico, you're not going to bring very many crypto people there without allowing more guns and more freedom,
Oh yeah, awesome! Heck yeah, I'd love to come up Freddie Quotes and do some quail up in North Carolina. I'd love to. It's a lot of fun, man. All that's I mean, I'm not really personally, I'm not like a deer or big game kind of, I don't like sitting around and waiting for like forever. I like to, when you go out dove hunting, if it's a decent day, you're going to shoot 50 rounds, that's way more fun to me. So yeah, come on down, bring it on down, we'll set up some ranges out here. I'll help somebody set up some fields. That'd be lots of fun. But yeah, like I said, I think that's all going to be opened up in general in the future down here, more so than it has been in the past, which is good. I think that'll entice more, like you said, more Hexicans that are the freedom loving gun toting types.
That's right. Yeah. Part of your security plan, of course, too, and being a responsible crypto holder means having lots of security.
That's true, and that's another thing that I feel relatively safe here in general. If you look at crime rates, sure, like overall, there is a slightly higher crime rate in Puerto Rico than there is in some other states in the U.S. But slightly lower compared to other Caribbean island countries, So it's tomato. Plus, it's like also depends on which. It's really mostly just like the areas that you're into. there's some rough areas, and
if we count taxation without representation that happens everywhere in the United States, then it turns out that there's way less crime in Puerto Rico.
That's right. That's the truth. That is a kind of funny thing though about it is there is pretty heavy taxes for Puerto Ricans, sir, or even if you are, so like if you come to Puerto Rico to open up your, service-based business that services Puerto Ricans, well, you will be paying taxes then, because all of the tax benefits that we're speaking about mostly apply to, especially for the business-based ones, apply to income that you make on income derived from non-Puerto Rican sources. So that means like if I'm consulting people who are Puerto Ricans for Hex or for other things or whatever, then I have to pay taxes on that. But if I'm consulting anybody from the rest of the world, then I don't have to pay taxes on that. So
does the tax shelter, I'm gonna screw up on my words here, but the tax incentives basically, those exist in perpetuity as long as the agreement is maintained for 15 years at a time, or is there a 10-year limit?
Supposedly it's like I guess that from what I understand, it's in perpetuity, but and it's a contract that you make with the government. So like even if, let's say, Puerto Rican statehood becomes a thing in the next 4 years, and they remove this tax benefit from being an option, then those that had already gotten it, from what I understand, now again, if it becomes the public spotlight and they start going after, rich people for tax breaks because that becomes the latest craze, then like I can't promise that anybody's going to be safe. That's not foreseeable. But from what I understand, from what our lawyers have told me down here already, from the Act 2022, there's like a society, like a nonprofit group here that has lawyers that they fund, that I highly recommend if you're going to give some of your money to a nonprofit. They're a good one to give half your donation for. You can also, they have an upgrade, like a badass healthcare group plan that you can be a part of if you're a member too.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's like a U.S. and Puerto Rican based healthcare plan. So like you can be on anywhere in mainland U.S. and still use it just about anywhere too. So it's a pretty decent deal. And they do a lot of legal work to protect these tax benefits and to protect those that have them. And some of what they talk about is that it should be protected because it is a contractual based situation for those that already have it, if it was to change in the future, for those later on.
And I'm making a contract with the audience right now to say you need to like and subscribe and turn on the bell notifications because we're giving you so much value through this discussion.
Yes.
Please. Yeah, you should have read the end user license agreement that I secretly tricked you into. Ha ha ha. Okay, so we got, 10K a year to charities. All right. And then you can donate to charities that are going to defend you against Big Bad Uncle Sam in the future. That's nice. And the act goes by Act 60, Chapter 2 and 3, and Act 20/22.
Yeah, it used to be 2022, and they just changed it to 62 and 3. Like my one is under the 60 heading, but it's the same thing. I mean, like it's basically been the same thing for a few years now, and they kind of changed like a few years ago. It wasn't a 10 grand donation; it was a 5 grand donation, which I got here then. But it's for charity, so I'm cool with it. Whatever. But yeah, that was a difference that had been changed recently. It used to be that you needed to have an employee that was a Puerto Rican as well, besides yourself. Now you do not, as long as you're doing like under 5 million a year in sales, or I think 3 million a year in sales, several million. So they little changes they change, but for the most part, the basis of it are the same.
Yeah, very interesting. And so if it was the case that somebody moved, let's say, to Texas, and then they're not paying income tax, but that doesn't include really investments. Is that right?
Yes. So like you won't be paying income tax necessarily in that regard, but it doesn't. You'd still pay capital gains tax, like which is like the bigger deal. I think.
What if you like set up a company and pay yourself?
I mean, whichever entity owns those things, when they go appreciate in value, would have to pay the capital gains based on their income level. So if you made $100,000 in capital gains, you're going to pay it based on that income bracket. No matter, and it is different for corporations and per people based on. I'm not exactly sure. That's how that is different in mainland.
But this whole Puerto Rico thing, it's a huge advantage over, I guess, setting up an IRA that can hold crypto, and then you can't really hold your own keys, and then you have to wait until you're super old. I've been accused, not really accused. All right, I'm going to backtrack and wobble around here. So in the Hex community, we're lucky to have people of all ages. And so sometimes people remind me recently that, maybe as a younger person, myself in the Hex community, I'm talking too much about only how you can stake long. And I hear that, and I give that a thumbs up in the comments that are there. And so I know that that'll be a topic I'll be trying to integrate more, is if you are not sure how much longer you're going to live, you might have a different staking strategy, of course. And, we might not even be able to cover all the different staking strategies, but I'm open to trying, and so I think for somebody who's at the point where in 15 years you will not be of retirement age, then that makes the Puerto Rico option more attractive. But if you are somebody who is within, the age range of being able to start stakes within a self-directed IRA or whatever it would be that could hold that crypto for you, then that might be something to look into, where you would not have to leave the country. You would not have to go to Puerto Rico in order to not pay as many taxes on the crypto gains, by using the rules correctly.
Yeah, that's something that's there's a lot of ways to go about it, and I think that when you talk about staking, or when anyone talks about staking, it's important to mention, we use a lot of the marketing key lines of 40% on average APY, which is true, but it's important to note, I always tell it 40% average APY. Now I've got a 15-year stake from day 3 that's getting 63 or something on average, or 64% on average, But like,
Yeah.
that's not that. Yeah, it is awesome. But like, that's not everybody. That's me, and or that's like a 15-year stake, And now if you want to do a 1-year stake, you're averaging like 15%, which is still
Mm.
fantastic. Like, I
Yes.
mean, like, there's not very many places that you can go then get 15%, of your interest. That's our interest on your money. It's just not. It's you show it to me. It doesn't really exist, especially not trustlessly, where you hold onto your keys the whole time. You don't like. There's just nowhere that has that opportunity.
I'm going to
So
do a whole episode where I just rant about how a certain financial organization keeps sending me physical mail telling me that my dreams can come true if I give them my fiat money and let it bleed out at 40% a year while they give me 0.5% ultra high interest. I'm going to do an episode just about that.
that's the best. The ultra high interest savings accounts that you see that you're like, what is it? 0.8%. You're like, okay. This is hilarious. I mean, at some point in time, whoever's like making the printouts for those, I mean, somewhere along the line, somebody is like, there's something about this doesn't jive. Like, why are we doing this? It's silly. It is very, very silly. And yeah, we have a great thing, and I mean, like, and it is that the fact that you can do a year stake and still get a lot, get a decent, good interest rate for it. I mean, like, again, I'm not someone who when I talk to people about it, I don't often promote. Most of the people I'm talking to are somewhat younger too, so it's not like I'm hitting up people that are very much older or and have an expiration time of less than a year. But I mean, I think that like a 6-month stake, if that's something that like for some reason you have to make a short stake like that, it's about the minimum I think would be reasonable to make. If if that's something that is like, what you want to do. Just because at that point, I mean, this 5 or 6% that you're the 6% that you're going to get APY interest on whatever money you get will basically cover your gas fees. I mean, that's really all it's going to do at this point in time. It's unless you're staking millions and millions of coins. At that point in time, just hold it liquid. Like there's a good chance that you'll win on price appreciation, anyways. I mean, there's nothing that like I don't want people to feel like they like. I don't make people. It's something that I also go over when I'm onboarding someone and make sure that they understand that like they don't have, because that's something that everybody that's like that I talk to that's had a little chance to research Hex will ask me if I have to stake it. And like, it's important for me to be like, no, you do not have to stake it. You could just sit there and maybe price go up, it's all, and it's less so now after big payday. Like that's a viable option. It's not, I mean, it's not gonna be your best bet. It's not gonna be, the way to max yourself out, but
I was watching
it's
a
better than
short
not
video
having Hex.
yesterday. Yeah. What's that?
It said it's better than not having Hex,
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's how I feel when I'm doing these airdrops, like setting up my wallets. Like, why do I want to swap this little $50 into USDC if I can, swap it into Hex and just leave it there and come back for it later when Hex has more than maybe paid for my loss in gas fees. So that's one strategy I'm using after having tried multiple ones. There is no one right way to gamble on airdrops. I saw a video just the other day from Frank Abagnale Jr., who is the man who the movie is based on with Leonardo DiCaprio, Catch Me If You Can. And
that's
he's a
right.
scammer, and he had like a 5-minute video on how to detect a scam. These are the 2 things that you should look for. And, one of the things that he was saying is that they tell you they need the money now, go to the bank now and wire me the money, or go to, do it now. And so when I think about Hex and just like how, first of all, like from a deep level of knowledge, just like how funny and ridiculous it is to call Hex a scam, because it's much less of a scam than the US dollar is. But um, the other thing is like, for some people, I'm like, yo, don't get into hex now. Like, see how it works out. Like, I'll keep buying cheap hex. Don't worry about
Yeah.
it.
Oh yeah, exactly. I mean, there's a level of that is the case. Like, I mean, you just laugh about it sometimes. I mean, there's sometimes I can't, there's some people that I can get it. Like the staker is nice because it's easier for me to offload some people that I don't want to do all that. Like I really, all right, if you're giving me enough hard time about it, fine. Don't buy hex. I'm cool with that. If you want, you can download this app and get it. And if you're not, do your own thing, whatever, and that's fine for them. I'm cool. I'm cool with that. I'll get as much cheap hex as I can.
The brilliant thing that somebody mentioned the other day was requiring people in your personal life to watch a YouTube playlist that you put together before you will talk to them about crypto when they're calling you from years past. It was Crypto Kool-Aid who came up with that, and
that's a great idea.
I rushed in and I've implemented this where on my YouTube page I reorganized one of the playlists so that it's got the top 3 videos that explain hex. All 3 of them you can go through in 10 minutes, and it'll repeat some of the key points. And then the 4th video in the playlist is the Hex 2020 Rewind, so you can kind of get a taste of what the community is like beyond just the product.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think I mean, I'm going to use that. I'm going to send cats to your stuff for, to give them the precursor to it, because that's, I'm a long-winded person. All my friends know it, and like they call it, it's not, my buddy calls it, how many words per breath I can get in, not even words per minute. He's like, how many words per breath is that? And so like, it's just it would be nicer to have, like, here's the 10-minute breakdown, watch this. And if you have any more questions, then we can go from there, but yeah. Cause like, man, half the time you got to start with like, what is a blockchain? And I'm like, God, so yeah, having that kind of stuff up front would be great.
Steph was speaking today about his strategy on Crypto Sparbox show, and I took a lot of notes because I kind of want to recap it or just be able to redigest it myself. I've started doing that with the live streams that I watch. I've been taking notes because I don't think I have time now to go back and rewatch all the stuff that I want to. And so making sure that I'm like actively listening. I can tell, if I'm taking notes, I can tell that I'm actively listening. And
that's true.
He had a ton of great points. He worked for a division of Google that aimed a product at kids who can't read. And so if you can imagine how hard it is to onboard and design an app for people who can't read, that seems like very much the ultimate onboarding challenge. So his years of experience doing that, I think, put him in a good position to be a leader in the community who is developing, his platform and an app. And that is Staker's primary goal, is actually to ignore the needs of the current people in Hex as much as possible so they can focus their efforts on onboarding new people. And I think that he laid out his case very well. And, it stated it allows those of us, who are doing inbound messaging and outbound messaging, we can keep doing our thing and be supportive of the Staker app as they're going through this growth phase that they're going through. Definitely.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I'll have to make sure to go back and take a look at that, because I'm sure there's some awesome gems in there.
Yeah,
I mean, he does know a ton about the not just this industry, but like like you said, how to market to people that aren't even trying to be, or don't even know that they should be marketed to. That's a big part about Hex, is that, like, because we're trying very specifically at this point in time to address no coiners more so than than people who are already jaded by a very shitty system. Then it's that's literally what we're trying to do. It's who is walking down the street thinking to themselves like, I need this incredible savings tool that can that can allow me to make huge gains in 15 years time. Like it's just a weird concept that like people aren't necessarily they're not just like stumbling to looking like stumbling around looking for it necessarily. So yeah, we have to find ways, new creative ways to get in front of people's eyeballs as best we can. Yeah, so I'm having him aboard is it's a pleasure, that's for sure.
Yes. And I think overall for like the community, I think the community is like really FOMOing the idea of getting new users. And I think that's key. But I would almost qualify that or try to maybe make an argument against this idea that we only have to get new users as fast as we can. I would argue that it's good for the system for it to continue to work as it has, which Hex, I believe, was designed to look like a scam and sounds like a scam, which filters out all the people who don't deserve the gains that we're seeing because they didn't do the research and because they weren't as diehard for the project. And I think that Hex, part of what's new about Hex, and Steph really said it well. In a sense, he said that Hex is something that is an economic breakthrough, and nobody has seen how this will play out. Nobody has described before scientifically what happens in this type of an environment where, where the ins and outs of Hex are being understood by more and more people slowly. And so I would my argument isn't fully formed. And I was trying to get a link for somebody in the chat, but I want to focus on what I'm saying. I think the psychology of people who hold Hex is very important as well. I think that we don't know what the future supply of Hex is going to be, but we do know what the minimum is going to, we do know what the minimum options are going to be for people to sell, but we don't know the maximum amount of people who are going to restake because that hasn't happened yet. We haven't seen what people are going to do with their stakes, and they don't know what they're going to do with their stakes. And people in Hex could develop kind of a trend that doesn't exist elsewhere, where they have a need to educate themselves. And if the price does appreciate, that people could get stronger and stronger hands as we go, instead of getting weaker and weaker hands.
Yes, I heard you speaking a little bit about this with El Hexante, and I really loved it. I was thinking about this a lot. Like it really, it's it's unlike anything else before. And it's because of this understanding that, when we all are, we're all as strong as the weakest link in this to some degree. And to some degree, I mean, if we can sell, the weak link goes away. So, but the thing that, that happens is typically in these systems, weaker hand, like the strong hands hold on to things early because they bought with principal, and they bought with the amount that they bought, they accumulated a lot, and they usually have a lot to help to do with it. So when the strong hands give up what they have, weaker hands is usually what picks it up. The people that come in later typically don't understand. I mean, it happens in everything, but Hex even is can be different, but it's just the same in the sense that people, it takes a lot of learning to really understand the system. So all of what we're doing is entirely necessary and super helpful in the sense that and there's times before when early on, especially when I didn't if it wasn't for Hexologist, if it wasn't for coffee, if it wasn't for Discourse Syndicate, that was the first thing I jumped on right away. And it wasn't for those cats, being there regularly, saying, hey man, we're in this all together, even through any FUD that was around. it would have been more. I probably would have less hex now. I don't say I would have no hex. I don't say I would have like disappeared and given up totally, but like I would have less hex now. And like that's I guarantee I would have had less hex now. And the whole community in general makes each other stronger because we believe, we like what you said before when you had said that like when the decisions haven't actually been made to sell yet when we see staked coins out there. I mean, I have made decisions before when I staked coins before or when I bought hex or whatever. I was like, these are my price points. And if it hits this, I'm gonna fucking sell and whatever. You can do that, but that has your reality changes, your perception changes as things go. And like my perception has changed. Like there's a part of me that was like, if we hit a penny, man, I'm going to be so stoked. We're like selling half of this and blah, blah, blah. Early on, I was like that. And like now I'm like, how, first of all, how am I going to do that? I'm all staked out. Like that's not really a reality. And then second of all, I was like, well, I'm glad I don't have that option anyways, because I wouldn't want to even have the chance, like, I don't think that it's like that's needed for me to have that opportunity to sell all those coins. Cause like I would much rather have the shares and I will continue to gain shares. Now I wouldn't, if it wasn't for the fact that we also continue to gain community momentum, I probably wouldn't feel as strongly about that, like the abstraction of the necessity for us to have and own shares that I do, And it continues further because the more we realize that the system works better if we hold longer and stronger, then everybody starts to get this mindset. And then every stake that comes out is just another potential restake.
You can testify to the fact that your reality changed as the inbound messaging changed your psychology. It made you more attached to hex and
100%.
To give you stronger hands. And to give you that wisdom that comes. And I think the hex system itself, right, is rewarding people in a kind of not a subconscious, but like I'm speaking on like behavioral conditioning level. You are getting paid more the longer you lock, and the systems are only going to advance more and more to show you on your screen how great it is for you to do things that are beneficial for yourself and for the hex community and the hex product itself. And so I do predict that the inbound messaging is kind of being underestimated in terms of the psychological effect that it could have for the price and for adoption, because if the price continues to do well, that will suck people in from the crypto space. Even without getting any new users. And this is something that I think differentiates hex from maybe any other financial product in the world, is that if hexicans continue to get stronger and stronger hands and continue working, such as myself, and continue to buy hex and accumulate, that even that right there could continue the system in a way that will draw people in, even without outbound messaging, which of course we're going to do. Of course, we're going to keep getting our loved ones into hex. But the efforts, that we use to get people in who maybe are tough, not necessarily tough selves, but who are undeserving, right? I don't want Anthony Pompliano to ever get hex, ever, because I think it's going to be too good to him for what he deserves as a middleman Bitcoin pretender who tells people to buy Bitcoin and send it to his exchange buddies so they can hold on to it and pay a small amount of interest. That's not Bitcoin.
Yeah, no, it's not. I mean, and I agree with that. I agree with that. And I mean, I really think that the more we, like, I saw Johnny Chaos make a comment earlier about, if we all believe, if we set the shelling point, like I will not sell hex under 10 cents, then like before we know it, hex will be like, I will not sell hex under $1, like before we know it, the price will move up, a lot. That's how shelling points work. That's how, and as we all work towards that, yeah, we keep staking and keep buying and keep staking, then like, I mean, in some regards, you're right. Because, Richard said it, these are closed systems. So as long as there's
Yes.
more input,
Yes.
coming into the system than there is going out of the system, then everybody wins in the system. Everything's great. So,
And yeah, and I'm not trying to either discount the outbound messaging, because I am seeing my efforts working, and these efforts have been based on what I've seen other members of the Hex community doing, right? When Crypto Coffee and when Hexologist and Discourse Syndicate and everybody else who has a channel, when you all are talking about, here's what we need to do in Hex, here's the strategies we're using, like, I'm listening, and I'm testing stuff out. I'm using certain titles and hashtags, my series on Wall Street Bets, and then organizing the Hex Quant Gang that has brought thousands of views in that I don't know that I would have gotten. And so, so there are these, just like in Hex and in crypto, there are many games you can play, and some of them will be more successful than others, many different strategies. I am finding that as well with content creation, that that it's the right combination, I believe, for me, of inbound and outbound messaging to attract more people to the community, and to continue to provide more and more value and information.
I agree. I will agree with that. I mean, I think that the inbound and outbound messaging they're both important, and we, as somebody who live streams and focuses on inbound messaging as I have, of course, I think that like I can find all of these incredible benefits to inbound messaging for me personally, and like why I think it's important for us to continue with. Of course, that's like, but no brainer for me, because like I said, I wouldn't have as much Hex if I have now if it wasn't for the fact that we have as fantastic inbound messaging as we do.
Yes. Yeah. If we were having as much new people coming in as people were, getting out of Hex, right, that would keep the price the same. And you're providing value by testifying to that. And I think that people, of course, there's an inbound messaging that just becomes the echo chamber, and that's something that doesn't grow the price as much, right? But if we all care about the price, and we all find the right balance and the right combination of this, continuing to keep the community strong and attracting more new people, I think that's I think the work is going to get done.
I think we've gotten a lot better at that too. And like, I think we've gotten a lot better at directing ourselves properly, we're not as much of just a bunch of rabid pit bulls ready to jump down anyone's throat that like even dares to question Hex. Like we've we've learned to like have a little more couth, how to read the room a little bit better, how to like have all this. There's all this, like, at first we were just like, Hex, get it or don't, you idiots, and like now it's like, oh hey, I'm doing this, I'm talking about something totally different. Oh, is there a Hex logo there? I didn't even notice. Like it's become much, much more suave how we get things done and how we focus on messaging in different areas. And that's I mean, super awesome. I mean, I see the Crypto Kings in the chat, man, and like he's been so great at finding new outlets to connect with, and finding new avenues to spread our word and to listen to other people too. Because like at the end of the day, that's what people really want, man, is they really want to be heard, And so like if you give other people that are already, even ones that have a voice and are doing well, a new place to have that voice, man, they'll be more willing to listen to you than anything else, than anybody else, because like you were willing to listen to them. I mean, that's how stuff works, So like I think that when we find those synergistic folks to like we have some common ground with, even when we don't have all the common ground in the world, man, some of my my favorite I really is cracking me up the other day, because I loved the Alaska Prepper Discourse Syndicate, their talk that they had with him, but then I also loved afterwards RG3 being like, man, that guy thinks that trapping beavers up in the wilderness is freedom. He's like, my freedom is going to the beach and getting a falafel afterwards. My freedom is getting a 6-pack of kombucha over at the Sam's Club. I was like, that's incredible, man. This guy is incredible. It's like, but like he didn't come across that way when he was interviewing, when they were talking to him at all. He understands, like we know where to be effective with our messaging, and it's taken a year to get there. But it's really, like, even if you're fresh on the scene and you want to create content, there's now a whole, that's not just Richard that, like, giving advice or stunting on you when you act a fool. There's a whole crew of people that are, that are effective at, oh, hey, I see what you're doing there, but like, you might want to try it like this because we've had better experience and better luck with this, and just like those little pointers and hints, make things move a lot better. And most people in the community, especially new cats, when you're new in a community, you're like, it's like, when you're, in any new schoolyard or anything else, you're like, you're kind of looking for direction, you're looking to others to like see how this is going to go, Not everybody just goes up and punches the biggest kid on the playground, Most people don't. Most people see what the dynamic is before jumping into things. And if they see that the dynamic is as positive as it has been, and as like promoting other people as we have been, and supporting each other with everything, then they just jump right aboard. They're just like, oh, this is how we do it. I have value to offer. Finally, somebody sees my value, and we're like, of course, we see everyone's value here. So as long as you're willing to, use it, then we'll be super fostering.
It's amazing. Yeah, the cross promotion goes a long way, I think, to create the inviting atmosphere for the people that we're looking for, to appear. And they do. People appear in the Hex community.
It's crazy how they appear like they do. Like the cool cats, like yourself, man. I mean, there's so many cats along the way that I remember when it was just a few of us, and then I remember when there's, and then now there's a lot, and like everybody, I run across somebody new with good content every other day, and like I'm just stoked. Like, this is kick ass. I'm excited that I don't have enough time to take in all the content. I try. I mean, I'm still trying, but like you can't even do it. It's impossible now.
Yeah. And that's a good problem to have. And the more that we connect with each other, from time to time, then we'll be able to update our, like today we've recapped some from Richard's stream, Steph's stream with Hex Lion, and then we talked about El Hexidente stream with myself earlier today, and mentioned Hexo and Discourse Syndicate. I mean, we're really, we're reviewing things that I think help people to hear, oh, like, I'll go check out that now that, I've heard that little recap of it.
Yeah, and that's the best way to do it. I mean, like, we want to spread the views all around. So, and somebody's going to love the way somebody else, I might not be the best voice for somebody, and, somebody else is, and it's awesome, that we have all that, like, all that to offer. It's just great. So, I mean, like, I can't help but see other great things coming from it, and hear about other great things coming from it. I'm working on it myself, so there's lots of, I know already there's plenty of cool stuff going on behind the scenes with Hex too. Everybody's working on their own projects, you know, and it's cool to see the evolution. A bit Hex going from meme master to, vlogger is super cool. I mean, even Hexo's doing his vlog too. Like, everybody has, the longer that we all are at this, the more you get to see everybody's growth and change and development through it. And that's cool and unique. I mean, like I said before, like, I really didn't fully expect to be getting involved in community building in the middle of a pandemic, but it has been a pleasure. This is one of the best community building experiences that I've had. And like, I've done a bunch, I've set up, multi-year music festivals. I've built, I've thrown them myself, I've, helped build nonprofits. I've done a bunch of different things in my day that, like, with sports teams, all that kind of stuff too. That like our team or community building activities, and this has been the most fun. It's really
Wow.
it's and like I mean that comes from somebody who's like I mean I've like I said I've thrown some badass music festivals and been to some great parties. This
Are
has
you
been
just saying that to pump your own hex bag?
no, man, it's like I wouldn't have like that when I say this stuff, I'm like I'm totally honest because I don't have to be here, like I don't have to be here.
Yes.
I don't have to be doing this shit. I don't have to do any of this. Like I have a ton of I'm not horn tooting or anything, but like I have a fuck ton of awesome friends and a bunch of awesome people that I know all around the world that like I really enjoy spending time with and in communicating with and like and I now find that I reach out to them more so. We all talk about Hex a lot, and that's great. I find I reach out to them more often now than I did before because of this.
Wow.
And that's because the community building feature is a lot of them understand and can see that too. They don't have to, like I said, we've done the community building thing. So when all you have to do is stumble upon some of this and be like, holy crap, there is a lot of content and all these people, like these dudes know each other and like are have good intentions for everybody. You can't get on a stream with 6 or 8 of us and not see that, so that's that. I mean, it goes perpetuates beyond us. And like, I can tell you that just because of some of the cats in my industry, that I was, in that entertainment industry that have gotten involved and bought and staked, that I wouldn't have thought like that would have even come up to me or like that, approached me, like I didn't show the shit to them. They came to me and were like, hey, I see what you're up to. I want in, and that's great. That's a
awesome.
great feeling,
Yeah.
So, I mean, so it's like, we're all like, that shows to me that we're doing it right. And like, everybody else should feel that way too. Like we're doing a great job.
Well, I've even surprised myself. I could not have predicted how enthusiastic I would be about Hex and about, I don't know, maybe I could have predicted a little bit, but before Hex, I didn't have anybody to talk to about crypto that cared about it to the same level or that really wanted to work on themselves and their knowledge of crypto as the future, really.
Me either.
And so it's
me either,
awesome.
Man. I've been in it for 4 years, man. And the couple closest people that I have a friend who him and I had started a small mining organization before I went and did my big thing. And we still had, still as an organization, we just, or a business, we just had sold all of our mining equipment and turned it into Hex, but he was the someone that was close, a good friend of mine that I could talk a little bit about crypto with, but like for the most part, I was still the one. It was all one-sided, Most of those conversations are one.
Yeah,
he's like, okay, cool, sounds good. Whatever you say, we're doing, I guess, So having like sounding boards like we do to talk about these kinds of things, like whenever I've been in a project management situation and you have like a block that you can't get past for some reason, sometimes need to bring in some external talent, and external talent only really works like when it has other external talent to bounce ideas off of, especially if it's like if it's something new that you're trying to get done that like they haven't even done before or hasn't ever been done before. It's difficult for someone to just come up with ideas among themselves. I mean, I can remember specifically I was working on a computer vision project, and we hired, I convinced my boss at the time, I was like, we need an actual PhD with like computer vision promise, and when we got the guy, that was the first thing the first thing we realized is I was like, I hired this PhD, and then I was like, we need 2. I was like, we actually need a second one of these guys because they need to bounce ideas off of each other. And when we got somebody else to, bounce ideas off of him, we didn't get to hire somebody else, but we got somebody to come in and consult with them. I mean, that's when we saw progress happen, because they had interesting experiences, to bounce each other. Like, oh yeah, I worked on this project, but it didn't work here. Oh, let's try that formula, and we get somewhere. I mean, and that's how a lot of times good knowledge is passed on, is through, working together to figure it out. And we're all doing a great job of that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's very rewarding. I see Liberty is saying that he got his Omega 369. I find it extremely rewarding to be able to talk about my neuroscience and therapy backgrounds and to be able to promote people to enhance their prefrontal cortex by increasing the electrical insulation in your prefrontal cortex by getting your body the right materials that it needs, which is specifically Omega 369. And it's an eerie coincidence that 3.69 is the interest or the inflation rate in hex in the long-term system. And so it clicks definitely with people in hex, but Omega 3 changed my life. It made me an even sharper version of myself than I was and allowed me to have more self-control over my behaviors, increased my problem solving and emotional regulation. And I know it's helped a lot of my clients in therapy. And so it brings all kinds of joy to me to see people in the hex community willing to give it a try. And
what's so funny is that I haven't given you the credit yet myself either, because so I've known the benefits of Omega 3 before, and I used to often take fish oil all the time, and recently when I had heard it wasn't that recently, like it was a couple months ago when you had said we were on a stream, it was before the conference even, you had said something about it, and I was like, oh yeah, that's right. And I hadn't taken any fish oil in a while. And so, the reason I hated taking fish oil is because, man, I had those fishy oil burps for like an hour afterwards, So I was like, all right, what? He's right. I should be taking that shit. So I got myself, I'm looking at him right now, on a bottle of Omega 369, and it's way better because I don't burp fish oil burps anymore. And I do feel like I'm a big fan. It does work. It's helpful. So yeah.
How long have you been taking it?
Probably like about a month and a half, maybe nice. A little bit longer. But yeah, I feel great. Like I said, I could tell. I can't be like, oh yeah, that's so much clearer headed or anything like that. But I do feel good taking them, and yes. And like I said, I've always felt better on that stuff. It just has been it was gross to get over the fishiness of it. That fish oil grossness that I couldn't never figure out how to work around that, but these are great. So,
yeah. They were the product has come a ways since I tried so many years ago, and now I've been taking them for probably 4 years now consistently. And they sell special kinds that have an extra layer of rubber coating around them, so they fit deeper into your digestive system if burps are still a problem with the kinds that you try these days. But another trick is to have them stored in the freezer, and then the hardness of swallowing frozen pills allows them, I hear, to get so deep in the digestive system that you don't have those burps.
Oh, nice. That's a good tip. Yeah, I haven't had them, like I said, since I've been taking these ones have been fine. It's no problem. Yeah, Johnny KS, I will, that's a good idea. I will do a big comparison between mining and staking from a miner's perspective. I like that. Maybe I'll set up a stream and I'll do that myself one of these days and get some charts out.
I'm just sharing the link here for the Amazon.
Yeah.
I do the Sam's Club Omega 369. It's the brand I use, but there's many brands, and people have messaged me saying that they found a vegetarian type that they like if they're vegetarian. So there's lots of different ways you can get that into your diet if you're not on a blood thinner.
Cool. Very cool. Yeah, it's good stuff, man. Every little bit helps,
Absolutely. Well, I've really enjoyed talking with you. Do we need to cover anything else on airdrops?
Get them if you can. There's a whole bunch of them out there. I'm not opposed to them to try and get them if you can, especially if you use the product. If you find that there's a decent product, yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. And people, you can go ahead and message me if you have any tips or tricks on airdrops. I'll be sure to cover them in future videos. And yeah, Big Kurkowski, you're definitely somebody that inspires me among a long list of Hexicans who do. You have now tell me a little bit more about it. So did you always know you wanted to live in Puerto Rico, or like what was the decision making process like for you?
So my wife's brother, right after the hurricanes 3 years ago, 4 years ago, came down here and was working the restoration. So there's I mean tons of work to be had. And so when he came down here, we visited a whole bunch, and really fell in love with the island. I paraded my wife around the island, and while I was down here visiting him, I came up with I found out about the Act 2022 stuff at the time, and I was like, whoa, that's pretty unique and awesome. And I was into crypto at the time. This was 2017. It was 2017, very end of 2017. So we had come after that hurricane. So we had come down here a few times. Crypto started blowing up, and but after January, February, we started coming down more. I probably came down 3 more times after that. And I was interested in some other, I had some other business that I was working with. I was trying to have work down here as well. And that wasn't going to happen. But, and then the crypto fell out, and then the market fucking, eroded. So I can remember being here in there was March, and there was another big super dump that happened, and me just being it's probably not going to happen here and down here. I was meeting with some cats about a solar facility that we were talking about bringing some miners to, and they're explaining to me why it wasn't going to probably be a good, there just wasn't economically feasible for us to finish the project that we were trying to work on. And then, like I said, and I'm looking at my fucking blockfolio, and I'm just I think it's going to be a few more years. So yeah. After that, I realized that it was the market was turning on us, and it wasn't smart for me to over leverage myself out like that. So I didn't, and I'd wanted to ever since. I was like, man, I really we visited. I don't think we had I had a chance to even come back since then. No. And so, yeah, I really wanted to. And it was, like I said, it was the dream of mine at the time, and now to be able to make it a reality and have my family aboard and as excited about it all as I am is really dream come true stuff. So I'm gonna go and wake up tomorrow and enjoy the nice sunrise over the golf course.
Now, so, yeah. What's the weather there right now? Is it super cold 70, and snowy and stuff?
No, oh yeah, just no, it's 70 to 80 every day, and you might get a little sprinkle that comes on through for a minute, but then it's sunny and breezy. So all the time. I mean, if you go inland a little bit, it might be a little bit muggier, but mostly you're it's sunny and nice, and then you feel like you're in a music video with the wind blowing on you all the time. So it's
wow.
Things you can get really, yeah, it's awesome.
Very cool. Yeah. Well, I think you've got the members of the audience sold. I think my prediction of everybody moving there is going to come true.
I can't wait. It'll be lots of fun. I'd love to throw lots of hex flavored events in the future down here. That's what I'm really excited for, man. Is I really can't wait till this shit goes away, so that we can all really get out there and spread our wings and show up at conferences, have our own conferences, create, yes. Have fun events, shows, whatever, all sorts of fun stuff.
Well, I survived my second dose of the vaccine, so
nice. Yeah, very cool.
I guess I'm not allergic to Facebook Messenger RNA or whatever they're putting in it these days. And
yeah, it's all right. It's all right. The nanobots are in there. You're good to go, man.
Yeah, I haven't started buying shares of Microsoft or something. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's like I said, I'm all for it. I'm all for it, man. And the nice thing is that thankfully, I'm not like rushing to necessarily have to get the vax down here, but
Sure.
that's just because thankfully, let me pull up my numbers here, but like, yeah, I mean, yesterday we had like 100 cases on the whole island. There's, the day before that it was like 110. So it's pretty. We're getting pretty close here to, to being relatively clear, which is nice. I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah. I'm sure there's still some bumps in the road ahead for, um, you know,
164 yesterday. We went up.
for everything. But I agree that I am also very excited and hopeful about the future Hex and crypto meetups. Have you been to a lot of crypto conferences before, other than the first Hex conference? Did
Yeah,
you?
I've been so. I mean, they're all very different. I mean, like I went to do a North American Bitcoin conference in Miami that Mo Levin puts on, and that was pretty cool. It was my first one, so I was pretty starry eyed. But it was at the time it was like an ICO shill fest. It was early
Yeah.
in 2017, and it was crazy how it was like just a revolving door of everybody get on stage and pitch your coin, and that's all it was. And like there was no like Bitcoin's good for these reasons or any of that stuff. I always talk about the fireside chat that Charlie Shrem did that was funny to me when there's a couple of quotes that he had in it that were great where he's like, people always ask me why I didn't tell them to buy Bitcoin at $1, and I was like, because you would have sold it at $2, and say like, no shit, that's pretty much true. But like that was pretty nifty. And then the other ones, I've done a couple mining conferences before, but they're mostly geared towards tech stuff. It's like and then I've done so in my course of quest for knowledge and money, I was stupid and thought that block size mattered, and moved all my miners over to
Uh
Bitcoin to Bitcoin Cash at the time.
oh.
And
Uh
I mean, I flew out to Tokyo and went to the Satoshi's Vision conference and like met all those dudes, shook fake Toshi's hand,
oh. Wow.
met all those cats that were back then. They're SV and BCH hadn't
You
split
should have
yet.
gotten his signature, and I don't mean with a pen.
Yeah, no, I mean I can remember talking to him for a minute too, and being like, hey, good to meet you, whatever. And he was like, yeah, I'll be releasing all these papers with all these squiggly lines on them that no one will understand. And I was like, well, I was like, I have a math degree, so I'll be paying attention to those papers, and I probably do understand, so like that sounds good. And he's like, okay, sounds good, whatever. It was all acted super big timey to me. I was like, cool, whatever. And like, began to research the papers like as they came out, and was like, these are bullshit. They don't say anything or mean anything and are fucking useless for what we're actually trying to get done here. So I mean, it was a slow coming to. I was in like March or April of what was it, 2018, and it wasn't until maybe it was later than that. Maybe it was a couple months later, but it wasn't until a few months after that I like had come to the realization that like I was kind of being duped, and like I wasn't like listening to him as if I believed his shit. I was mostly believing the Rogers side of like,
Yeah.
fees suck and block size sucks. And like, he's right about that stuff. I don't think that Roger's wrong. I just think that that's not how it doesn't mean that the market is going to rationally, take your side, especially when there is so many,
Roger did he
he
even
didn't
get to go
create,
to the New York conference? Like,
no, he was, no, he, it was I mean, and it's not even like he wasn't, he was like what he wants didn't really matter because the developers that have control over it doesn't matter if he's the person who uses the network the most. The people who control the get repository are the ones who get to change what's going on in the code, and everybody else can either decide to run it or not. And like and everybody's running it, so like whether he likes it or not, that's what Bitcoin is now. And that's all there is to it. So I mean,
yeah.
like it was like, and that I mean, long and short of my whole experience, is that I like that really set me on the course to find Hex, because if it wasn't for the fact that when Bitcoin Cash like split, I still was following Richard at that point in time on my Twitter, and he said, like, you've heard this before, where like he said some things that Bitcoin Cash is stupid and Roger was dumb, and I didn't like the things that he said, and so I was like, fuck this guy, I blocked him. I was like, he's full of shit that I don't like to hear, and that just it perpetually bit me in the ass until I stopped that thing, and so it wasn't until many months later that like I was wrecked, a few times over before I was like, I should start listening to other people that aren't my echo chamber. And so I unblocked a lot of people on Twitter. I had a bunch of people blocked that because like the Bitcoin Cash thing is similarly, I won't say cult-like, but zealoty. Let's put it like that. Very zealoty in the way that they go about their stuff. So like in that way, I was like, screw everybody else. And that was what I heard Richard say that really helped me to open up to all that, was what he said, like, if you don't know why all the top 10 coins exist and what they're marketing to, who they're marketing to, their customer bases, and what they're offering the public, then you have no reason to be giving anybody any advice on cryptocurrency whatsoever. You don't know shit. You're talking. And I was like, I looked at the top 10 and I was like, like 7 of these 10 or 6 of these 10, I really have no fucking idea about, And at that was when I was like, bless it. I was like, that was like, then I started to listen to more of what he had to say. And every single thing that he said was like one of those annoying aha moments, but you're an idiot, It's like, son of a, oh. Yeah, I know he's right. Oh yeah, I know. It was pain. Like his words to hear at first were very painful for me.
The thing about the top 10 coins, I think I've heard a lot of people say that maybe we need to get that on a bus.
Mm-hmm. That's
around
not a
some
bad
taxis.
Idea. Yeah, it's like if you could, because like people will, if you show people all that stuff, and they ought, like, each coin offers something to somebody. If you show them all 10 of those coins, somebody's gonna really like the whole idea of Justin Sun and his marketing spiel and all that stuff, more so than any trustlessness or whatever that you could offer them. And somebody else is going to really love Charlie Lee's spin on maybe giving them private confidential transactions one day, maybe, and like, you have to understand why people like all that stuff and what they find of value in that before you can offer them anything or try and sell them anything, And I didn't know that. I was like, no, they'll just listen to me because I'm louder and right. And like, that's just not how it works. So it was a learning experience. And in the end, I'm glad I found my way here, because like I said, it's much better than mining, and having the humility to be wrong and find a better path is like, oh my gosh, it's so much better than being thick-headed and like cutting your own way, possibly into a pit you didn't know was there,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that there are a number of origin stories that really stand out to me in Hex, and yours is one of them, that I could see in headlines of crypto articles in the future. It go down with the Bitcoin pizza guy, and then, the family that sold their house, to buy Bitcoin. And then, now we've got you with the, everything you just said, your mining, your conversion from mining to
machines
to getting Hex and staking, right? And all the interesting supporting facts that you have along with your character on your history with picking the wrong coin and then updating your worldview and listening to somebody who made a lot more sense in the end than anyone else, probably in the founder of Hex, Richard Hart. And so I think that's extremely valuable to the community. because I think origin stories in crypto matter more than people realize in
Oh yeah,
attracting
totally.
new people and in creating the the level of understanding and trust of people wanting to look deeper. People want to learn, but you have to get their attention and keep it in the first place. And so having interesting stories such as yours, with Abit, going from homeless. Name of his first video is going from homeless to being a perpetual traveler in the world. He's landed his feet in Acapulco, I see, and I want to watch that today.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Bitfinesse is also, I think, he's got his story that that we need to clean up so it doesn't include any illegal details, and then we can have that as a primary one as well. So.
Oh yeah, yeah, and that's the nice thing that, like you said it best. I mean, there's so many stories that we have, and it really does help people to like glom. You associate with what you feel comfortable with, and we all, if you relate, if you understand where I'm coming from at all, because you were running a mining machine before and it made you fuck all the money or whatever it is that, or or you were felt like that I have an interesting way of telling things, whatever it is, that like you like about my side, cool. If you don't think if you hate the sound of my voice, I do too, that's cool too. You can talk.
I don't hate the sound of your voice.
I know, but like, I get it, like that everybody has a reason for listening to whoever they are, and everybody's opinion and story is valid. And like, I mean, if it wasn't for Hex, there's a lot of the cats that we've streamed with that like I probably wouldn't have taken the time to get to know or befriend in the way that we have. And I'm super like blessed and stoked that I have had that chance, because everybody has this amazing perspective to give that, like, even to me, I learn a lot from everybody's perspective, and and I think that that's helpful. And like having everybody get together and then also being able to do our own streams, it really helps other people to do the same thing. You get attached to who you like, and then you listen to them interact with other people, and then maybe learn something from somebody else because of that. It's great. It's great.
Absolutely.
It's awesome.
Well, yeah, thank you so much for joining me tonight. And now I suppose we're allowed to give the audience here a 20-minute intermission before you all are required to report back for duty. Because I imagine that just like every other Monday night in history, Discourse Syndicate will be going live here and having great content for you. And we want to keep this perpetual 24-hour stream going, of course. So I'm going to share the link here in the chat for people to go ahead and switch their browser over to Discourse Syndicate. This is their channel here on YouTube that you can click on. And then you'll be, then you can take your bathroom break or, let the dog out or whatever you need to do. As long as you're back in time for the start of this show. So thanks again for joining me, Big Kurkowski.
Of course, man. Thanks for having me. This has been lots of fun. This has been tons of fun. I appreciate the time. And like I said,
where can people find you?
Okay, you can find me at Big Kurkowski at Big Kurkowski on Twitter. You can also find me at Big Kurkowski on Telegram. We'll start doing. I was going to actually invite you as well on. We're going to start doing probably next month once I have my studio set up here a little bit better. Bingo Earth is as a charity bingo that we do, where it's $10 to play, and you get usually 4 chances if we run short, sometimes 3. Chances to play bingo and win Hex. Usually we're given, the winners all. Ooh. You can take your money in cash too, by legally I'm supposed to say that as well. But we've had almost nobody take their winnings in cash. That's all. So and it's all for charity. And each week we pick out we were doing it monthly before. I'll probably start doing it bi-weekly now, I think. And I had some big Hex stakes from Big Payday that we stopped doing it last season, and then this will be our next season starting. We'll start doing it bi-weekly, and whoever comes on as a guest gets to pick the charity that that the winning, whatever donations come in from people buying in cards goes to the charity. So
I found you on YouTube and I linked it below. I'm not sure if I was supposed to do that or not.
oh, you can. Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, it might be. I don't know if it was my. Was it my? Like, I have like a personal YouTube channel that I did some things on, and then I have the Bingo Earth. Is
Okay, I'll make sure to add the Bingo Earth one.
Yeah, bingo.earth is our website. You can just
Cool.
but yeah, you can check us out there. You should start seeing stuff from us come real soon. And besides that, what else? I got nothing really else. Oh, next season we have a fantasy football league where the winnings get paid out in Hex as well. You can,
Ooh.
if you're very interested in that, if anyone out there is interested in fantasy football, when that starts getting kicked up, you'll hear more about that too.
Cool.
So that's all.
Well, everybody can find me at allmylinks.com/allin. And we'll play the outro here to say goodbye to everybody. Good night.
Bye, everybody.